really care about providing career support and professional advice to student athletes, something that I wish that I had had when I was a student athlete. And I want to make this engaging and interactive. I know everyone has Zoom fatigue, and I know that you're right now in reading period. So the fact that some of you have taken time to join this, like, you are ahead of the game in terms of your career stuff because you are investing in that now. So before to kick this off, I put a slide presentation together all around how you can use LinkedIn to land your killer job. And it's based on my own experiences, a hiring manager, someone who has worked in different jobs, hired teams, and as a former student athlete, I really want to bring that perspective from being an athlete, and how do you highlight that experience on your resume, your LinkedIn, and job interviews. So that's what we'll cover today. Just a bit about me. I grew up in San Francisco. I had the pleasure and privilege to get to go to Harvard and play soccer there. I was in Adams House, and I graduated in 2010. And then after that, I have worked in tech primarily for the past 10 years. I started my career initially in consulting, ended up being in our digital strategy practice, and that was in New York. And then I said, okay, consulting is not for me long term. And I moved to, I went back to school at business school, and I really discovered this world of the intersection between sports and tech. And that's what led me to work at TeamSnap, work at Under Armour in their connected fitness group. And then after business school, I wanted to join a fast growing startup and see what that was like. And that's where I joined ZipRecruiter, which is an HR tech company. It's all about helping people find jobs and helping companies hire. So that's where I got the inside perspective into how job searching is done today and the realities of that, and how you as people, as you go out and into the workforce, can position yourself best to land your killer job. And then that's an area I'm really passionate about. And other area I'm really passionate about is athlete mental health. Been an advocate for that, rooted in my own experience as a student athlete, and wanting to make that type of mental support more accessible. And so now I'm working on founding my own startup, taking that experience that I have from being in the tech world and as an athlete, and working on starting My Huddle, which some of you may have come across, which is a mental health platform specifically designed for student athletes. So we're early stage in that. And, I now live in Los Angeles with my husband. And, it's COVID, and it's the year 2020, and it's been a crazy year. So I'm very want to recognize and call that out. And I think that student athletes have been hit some of the hardest with the disruption. And so I really commend all of you for dealing with the ups and downs of that. We have several Harvard student athletes that are interning with the My Huddle team right now. And so they give me a window into the challenges that you all are facing on a day-to-day basis and navigating. So enough about me. I'd love to learn more about you. So I've put together a few polling questions, which I will launch now. And if you could help me learn, who's on this call with us today. So what year are you in college? Cool, I'm seeing some responses come in. Thank you. And sorry for the adults or post-college people that are on the call. I did not give you an option here. I should have done that, but awesome. Okay, I'll end this poll and share the results. Cool, so we really got a nice mix of folks across years, and that will just help me understand how to, where you might be in your job process. My next question is, let's do this one. So just curious, do you have a profile on LinkedIn already? Do you feel like yes, and it just needs some fine tuning, or yes, but it's pretty basic, or not yet? That will also help me gear this presentation around your needs and interests. Okay, awesome. This is great. I'm seeing here, I'll share the results. So yes, but it's pretty basic. That makes sense. That is where I don't even think I had one in college. So you all are, ahead of me on that. So that helps. And I think this presentation will really help give you some tangible ways to improve your presentation or your LinkedIn right away. And then help me understand, why did you join today? What are you hoping to get from today's session? Whether that, select as many that are applicable, whether it's tips to improve my LinkedIn, learn how to use LinkedIn to find a job. I think that was learn how to use LinkedIn to build my professional network was that last one or third one, or then other. Cool. And yeah, the post grads, you also can chime in on this one. All right, sharing the results on this. We're seeing, yeah, awesome. Okay, learn how to use LinkedIn to build my professional network. That was number one, which is awesome. Something that I do a lot now is actually consciously investing in building my professional network. And so it's really cool to see that all of you are thinking about that. But yeah, all three of these we're going to cover. So I'm excited to get into it with you all. All right. So we are living through unprecedented times. And as I mentioned, I don't want to I do acknowledge that. And that's change, that affects obviously your schooling, that also affects your job search. Maybe some of you are not enrolled right now and you're working instead and looking for internships. So I think that what I'm thinking through is how to equip you with a skill set around professional networking and using LinkedIn, regardless of times, and how it can be there for you as a tool that you have in your back pocket. So my goals for today are that you each walk away with a clear understanding of how to create or improve your LinkedIn profile, and at least 2 concrete ways that you can start using LinkedIn for your career exploration immediately. I should say too that I delivered this presentation initially to Harvard women's soccer and Harvard men's soccer. I'm part of our board and Friends of Harvard Soccer board, and focus on our community and professional networking initiatives. And so this is something that I did. And then I was talking to Jessica and she's like, oh, it'd be great to deliver to more Harvard athletes. And so that's sort of the impetus for this talk today. But it's been tested with Harvard soccer players and they said that they enjoyed it. But isn't LinkedIn for older people? I think that perception has maybe changed, and that's a good thing. But just quickly talking through, here's why I think every college student, athlete, student, not just athlete, should have a LinkedIn profile. One, it's never too early to start building your professional network. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network. 1 in 3 professionals on the planet are on LinkedIn. And if anything that my past 10 years in the work world have shown me is that your network is extremely valuable. I think almost every job that I've gotten is through some sort of connection. And I'm really grateful for that. And all of you being here at Harvard immediately are fortunate in that sense that Harvard does have an incredible network. And it's not just a network that's a transactional thing. It's it's where, I learn from other people about jobs, and I learn from other people about new opportunities. And, I really believe in relationship building. I like that word a little bit more than network. Then another reason to have LinkedIn is it's a really great way to start learning and exploring your career interests. I think that as a student, you're exposed. It's hard to get exposure to all the different career paths you can take. And I think that at Harvard, when I was there, I was like, okay, there's investment banking or consulting. That's kind of how I felt when I was there. I don't know if some of you feel that way. And I've realized being out in the world, like, whoa, there's so many career paths you can take. And it's hard to explore that, when you're a busy student athlete and you have classes and everything. And so LinkedIn can be that digital platform where you can go and explore it. I give this example here of I'm now really interested in the mental health of student athletes, and I shared this article with my community of talking about the importance of mental health for student athletes, and started getting reactions and engagement on it. And it's just like any other social platform, but instead of talking about your social life, you're talking about professional topics. And you might come across things that you didn't even know existed just by being on the site. The other thing is that LinkedIn is set up as a great way to find jobs. I think most of you are aware, like you can go and search for jobs, but the other thing is it will enable people to find you, to have recruiters actually contact you and let jobs find you. So that kind of starts happening as you build up your professional experience. But for instance, now for me, I have headhunters that reach out to me and contact me saying whether or not I'm interested in a position. And so it takes the work out of job recruiting because you have now recruiters who are, who do rely on LinkedIn, now using it to find candidates rather than the other way around. It's kind of flipped the job search on its head. So having a presence on LinkedIn is good for that reason. But I don't have real work experience is maybe something that a few of you are thinking to yourself. And you'll see I decided to select celebrity athletes that have graduated from Harvard to feature in this presentation. But I talk to and I work with a lot of student athletes who say like, well, I've spent 25 hours a week playing my sport. I haven't had time to have an internship during the summer months. I'm preparing for my season. And like, I want to kind of reframe what it means to be a student athlete because it is a job. And you do have extremely relevant transferable skills that employers are looking for. And I think it's just about helping you realize how to highlight those effectively on a professional. For this, I have Kamaya, who is a senior on the Harvard women's soccer team, graciously agreed to be our guinea pig. And this is actually her old profile. Since we did this, she has updated it and incorporated some of the suggestions. But we're going to go through this as an example, so you can tangibly see, how you could take a lot of you said that you had more of a basic profile and how you can really make it a star profile. So first of all, just, the basic sections of LinkedIn, you got your header and you got your about section. That's like what people immediately see when they go onto LinkedIn. Obviously you got your experience section, then you have your education. And I think this is optional, but you can have that volunteer experience as well. So I'm going to go through just these 7 steps. And if at any point there are questions, please, you can either unmute or you can put it in the chat, and I want to make sure I address it. Again, this is intended to be a resource for you and a conversation for you all. So I want to make this engaging. So 7 steps. The first one, professional photo. A photo, there's a stat on this, but a photo can actually increase profile views by 21 times. For better or for worse, it sets that first impression. And, I encourage you to think about the branding that you want to convey through that photo. If you, look at the 3 photos that I've put below, each of them are like a representation of that person and the industry or field that they're interested in. And I would keep it, a professional photo. You can take it with your phone camera, that's totally fine. But keep it usually, chest up to, to make it so that your face is visible. So yeah, anyone want to write into the chat what they think these from left to right, the career interests of these 3 folks are? Let's see, how do I do the chat? Well, we got, oops, I gave it away. I just realized. So we have finance, creative design, and healthcare. So pretty easy to tell from the photos. Second tip is customize your header. The headline, you have 120 characters that you can use to talk about your skills, focus areas, or strategic, and use like keywords very strategically. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but this is what everyone sees when you comment on posts, when you share something. It's like that little tagline that goes onto your LinkedIn profile. And it's a really powerful thing. It's again, that part of your personal professional branding that you want to portray. What Kamaya had here, for instance, is incoming human resources rotational program intern at Capital One. And I'll show on the next slide, I think, how she could evolve that, really use those 120 characters to your advantage. And then also I would try to customize your URL if you can. Like LinkedIn lets you do this, and it just makes it easier to share your profile with other people. Otherwise, it's just like a random assortment of numbers. But if you can be LinkedIn, / your name, that can be kind of nice. And then location is a really interesting thing to think about. Your location, a lot of companies want to, maybe this is thrown out the door with COVID, but a lot of companies will target you based off of your location. So if you're in, Boston, there's certain companies that are based there that are going to be looking for you. If you're outside of Boston, they might not think that you're a good fit, even though you might be very willing to move for the role. So I'd say really, like, usually when you're at Harvard, it probably makes sense to just put Boston. You can also put your hometown. Maybe you want to like move back to your hometown, home city after college. But that's kind of a personal thing, just realizing like how the platform works on those filters. So this is just, how you do it. There's a little how-to slide to just go to like where you can customize your headline. From talking to the Harvard soccer players, a lot of them didn't realize that you can customize your headline. So automatically LinkedIn will take whatever your current professional role is and just auto-populate that into your headline. But you can actually customize it exactly how you want to. I also would encourage you to select an industry that is relevant to your current interests. These are a little bit limited, and it's frustrating to me that you can only choose one, but just choose one that you think is like most, your highest interest right now, and you can always change this later. This again will just help with targeting and things within your relevant area of interest. And then customize your header. So these are just a few examples that I pulled. And what I liked about these is that they don't just highlight the person as their current position. It talks about skills. It talks about, some of them are current students. And so it highlights like where they're a student. If you can put, include Harvard in your headline, it's probably not going to hurt you. And it also, for some of them, it tells people what they're interested in, seeking full-time software engineer job. And so these can be really powerful. It tells you so much more than just, software development student. So for Kamaya, we took a close look at hers, and, she did have that personalized URL, which is great. She has a great professional photo with a great smile. She had Sacramento, California. And so I asked her, I was like, oh, is that where you want recruiters to find you? And she said, no, not really. So I think she was thinking about updating that to like Bay Area, just to be more encompassing. And then her headline was probably the thing that needed the most work. And so I gave her a few ideas. From talking personally with Kamaya, I know that she's really interested in diversity and inclusion and having a career in that. And so, this first option here of aspiring diversity and inclusion professional, Capital One HR intern 2020. And she's like, oh, I was like, Kamaya, aren't you the captain of the Harvard women's soccer team? She's like, oh yeah. I was like, well, maybe you could include that in your title. Again, like that's employers will, look for that. That's a win for them, or a positive thing. So that's one version. And then the second version is she actually puts her major. She puts a little bit about what she's experienced in, and she puts that she's a varsity student athlete. All of you on this call can put varsity student athlete at Harvard. So that is something you can consider. And then this about section, this comes again right below your that top section of your profile. And this is like where you can tell your story. So when people click on your profile and want to learn more about you, they can learn what you're about. What are you, what are some of your accomplishments? What are your career interests? And this is a story that it can be aligned to your personality and what you want to tell. So there's not one key way to do this, but one thing I would suggest is having certain keywords in your summary that will be trigger words for people. So let's say you're really interested in finance, making sure that you have finance and investing or investment banking, in your about section, so you can speak to that. And I usually like making my about section a little bit more personal and, written from my voice rather than like a descriptor and like using he and she. I just think it makes it more conversational and personalized. And think about what that first sentence should be, how you can capture your audience's attention immediately. I don't know if I always would go with like a quote. I don't know if you need to do that. I think it's also fine just starting with like, I am currently a senior and so. But yeah, you can think about that. And so this is what we suggested for Kamaya, suggested that, she, in her first paragraph, talks about her interests and career passion and, why she chose her major. So I thought that was really a good opening. I will say, I know that Harvard calls it a concentration, but, and concentration and major, like for people outside of Harvard, I don't know if they know what a concentration is. So you might want to just in your LinkedIn profile, call it a major. I don't know if I'll get in trouble with like Harvard for saying that, but it just makes it more ubiquitous language. And then I like in her second paragraph that she highlights applicable work experience and skills that she's learned. And then she calls out her interests. A fun or easy way to do this is just what she has here, where you just list a bunch of different interests kind of in a list form, and that allows you to get a lot of those keywords in, like buzzwords in that will help recruiters match your profile. And then 4, describe your experience. So this is the experience section where you'd have, your different work experience. And I think when I was talking to athletes, again, this is where it came up like, well, what do I do with my athletic experience? This is where I'd say, put your athletic experience like in your LinkedIn profile. That's probably where you spend the majority of your time today. And it is like having a job. It's a commitment. It, it requires professionalism, leadership, teamwork. And so I think it's totally, I'd encourage you to put it in the experience. And then maybe once you graduate, maybe you bring that down in your profile, like what I've done. But for now, I think it's great to highlight it as a key experience. You can put in here, summer jobs. You can put in here specific extracurricular activities that are a big time commitment as well, like being a research assistant or tutor. It doesn't have to be defined just as traditional like work experience, like I got a formal internship. That's why it's called experience. It's a little bit more broader than that. Also, as you type in your experiences in LinkedIn, you'll notice that if it's for a company that is on LinkedIn, their brand icon will show up, and that really makes your profile more visually appealing and stronger. So use those brand icons if they are available. When you describe your experience, there's a section for below the LinkedIn profile to have a sub description of the experience. Use action-oriented words that help highlight the impact that you had. And this is just like a cheat sheet of words that you can use and refer back to. I think I have some examples here. So here's just examples, I pulled these from different profiles, but if you're a research assistant, what did you do? soccer coach. I know a lot of athletes will have coaching experience. I think that if you can quantify the experience, like number of kids coached or hours coached, that's a really great way to, again, quantify the impact of your experience. So yeah, a few other examples here. And then there's the education section. So here's just 3 different ways that you can list your education. These I just pulled, as examples from profiles. One of them is mine, but you can guess which one that is. And, I think this is a great place to highlight activities that you're involved in, even though if you have your athletic experience up top in the experience section, call it out here again. And yeah, you can add in here also like relevant classes. So let's say you're really interested in a career in, I keep on doing finance, but finance, if you took a statistics class that might be relevant. If you're interested in, going into nonprofits, like maybe highlighting a relevant gov class that you took, things like that. And then volunteer experience. This is a great way to show a more rounded perspective. If you have some of that experience, you can add it in here and sort of link to the nonprofits that you worked for. And you can do it either, a short and sweet way, or you can do a more descriptive, a longer description. Again, I think it should be commensurate with the amount of time that you spent with the organization. And then a little thing on your profile settings. So these are the settings that I have to make my profile visible to people. Do what you feel is comfortable. I can't quite remember what the default settings are, but I want to make sure that my profile, like anyone who's researching me on Google can find my profile. But you have to be friends with me in order to see some of the more detailed things about my experience. So like everyone can see my headline, everyone can see my summary, but only certain people can see, recent articles and activity that I've posted about. So that's what I was comfortable with, but just know that like these can be customized as you see fit. So great, I now have a profile, but how does this actually help me get a job? I think this next section is really where athletes last time were like most intrigued about like how to use LinkedIn to optimize your job searching and how you can do that immediately. I just want to check. I want to make sure I'm not missing any questions. Okay. How to start using LinkedIn for your career and job exploration. So one is start building your professional network. How to do that? Well, immediately, since you all have joined on this presentation, you can add me as a connection. You just write when you invite me that like, thanks for doing the LinkedIn training, just so I know who you are. And then immediately you'll have all of my connections. I think pretty powerful. And now I will say, I don't personally know every one of my connections, but they're, I'll show where that becomes really fun, those second degree connections. This I meant to this was more applicable for a Harvard soccer group, but we did create a Harvard soccer LinkedIn group. And so we were encouraging people to join. I think we're almost at 200 members now. You do have to be a Harvard soccer alum in order to join that. But I did look it up and I do see that Harvard University has a group. And then Jessica, are there other LinkedIn groups for sport?
We actually have a Harvard Varsity Club LinkedIn group that you can request to be a member of too. And we have like 2,200 people on there. So
woo,
join that.
Amazing. Definitely join that one. Definitely join that one. And I'll show you why groups become so powerful. Again, this kind of goes back to why do I have to build my professional network? Well, sounds like you all already are very aware of that because that's what you said in the poll question that you're interested in. But yeah, referred candidates are 15 times more likely to get the job. That's with a warm introduction, that you then have a person who's advocating for you within the company. It's a much higher chance than just applying cold to a job. And so I would encourage you all to, if you've just started your LinkedIn profile, like shoot to get to those first 50 contacts. in general, like on LinkedIn, like the bigger your network, the better. So like on Instagram, for instance, I'm pretty careful about who I want to be as my friend, because I don't want like everyone in the world seeing pictures of me and my family. On LinkedIn, I'm like, yes, come and be my friend on LinkedIn. Like I will tell you what I'm doing in my professional career, and that's great. We can connect that way. Now, if I don't know you at all, I'm not going to accept you, or if you're not in a space that overlaps with mine. But in general, like I think the more connections, the better. You can use this when you log into LinkedIn. You might see that there's this email sync feature to find connections, and it will automatically, I think they still have this. I'm not sure if they do, to be honest. This is there when, you know, they might have gotten rid of it, but you can sync it with your email to find connections. I just be careful to like, I think when I did it, like it blasted it to like all these people that I hadn't connected with in a while, and it was a bit embarrassing. So just be careful on like who it sends that email sync feature to. You can also use this LinkedIn people you may know feature. So you'll probably see this when you log in. It will be like, oh, because you know Christina, we think that you might also want to be friends with this person. And that was really great, for instance, like with me reconnecting with people from my high school. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, I haven't talked to this person in so long, but like they were in my high school class. Like, let me add them as a friend on LinkedIn. You know, and then my etiquette in terms of sending invite requests on LinkedIn is like, they should be able to recognize your name. Like if they can't, then that, I don't really like the cold outreach as much. Although people do it, they do it all the time. Just, you know, make sure you have a reason for why you're reaching out. And then, yeah, join that varsity club, join other college or former employer groups. That's like a great way to start building your network too. Okay, and then the second thing is start talking about your career interests on LinkedIn. This is something that I was not active on LinkedIn. And you know, I'd post on Instagram and things like that, but I did not really talk about my career interests on LinkedIn. This is something that is really, it's a social network, right? So like the more that you share, the more that people hear about what you're interested in. And so I'd encourage you to start thinking about, you know, what are the areas of the, you know, professional world that you're exploring. And it doesn't always have to be like, oh, I saw this article and this is what I think about it. It can be like, hey, I have a question about something, or hey, I'm running a survey and I want to learn about, or I'm looking to speak to people that are, you know, in consulting or people that are in the tech world. I think that's like a really great way to use it too. And so I just give a few ways that you can do that. And I'll just give an example. You know, it's these posts here that I've taken a screenshot are of some of my recent posts, because again, I'm building a company all around student athlete mental wellness and mental health. And so it's been really fun actually to use LinkedIn as a platform to talk about that and share that and connect with other like-minded people that I wouldn't have been able to connect with otherwise. And as my friend, someone who used to be on my team who was a bit just a few years out of college, I saw him once say, like, what's the worst thing that can happen if you post on LinkedIn? The worst thing is people just ignore it. The best thing is that people comment on it and offer up advice to you, or, you know, want to connect with you in some way. And so I started thinking about that more myself. And I give this example of, I finally worked up the courage to post about what I was building on my LinkedIn, that I'm building this company, My Huddle. And I wrote a blog article about my personal experience with it and why I care about it. And I was really nervous to post it at first. It's like, oh, I'm going to be judged and, you know, all that stuff. But what was so cool in the comments is I got people that I haven't talked to in some time reaching out, being like, I love the mission that you're about. I want to help. How can I help? And it was just amazing, like how people come out of the woodwork to, you know, support you in that way. And so this has led to a few really great conversations that we're now following up on. So yeah, you never know what's going to happen when you start putting yourself out there. And so that's something that I would suggest you can do. And, you know, obviously do it with the right tone and don't be obnoxious with it. You know, I think always about adding value when you do a post, but I'll let you use your judgment on that. And then this third thing is where LinkedIn gets pretty darn fun. So you can find jobs, and again, let jobs find you. So I give this example of, let's say you typed in, I'm looking for a college internship and I want to be in Portland, Oregon. So then you can filter on experience level so that the job comes up that's more right for you. And then let's say you're like, oh, sweet, like Nike came up. I'd love to work at Nike. And then you click on the job description and, you know, it shows all that. Okay, great. That's cool. You can read the job description. But what you can do then is you can actually click on Nike, the company, and then go to people. And then you can see your connections that work at Nike. So up here in the top right, I've circled that, you know, sure, there's 80,000 people on LinkedIn that work at Nike. But I have 2 connections, first-degree connections that work at Nike, Nina and this one other person. And then you also can add in here certain criteria. So if I went to Nike, I clicked on people, and then I started adding in like, well, I'm really interested in working in marketing at Nike, and I need it to be US based, and I want to talk to employees who went to Harvard University. So you can add all those filters in, and then these are the people that pop up. You got Devin, Eunice, and Elena, who are all currently at Nike and went, you know, have some connection to Harvard University. And then I click on Devin's profile and I'm like, oh, amazing. Like, wow, she's head of North America marketing at Converse. That sounds awesome. Like, that's someone I should maybe connect with. And what you'll see is that because I'm not a first degree connection with her, I'm only a second degree connection with her. I can't message her directly on LinkedIn, but you could go to, but there's 2 or even 3 workarounds for that. The first one is that you all have access to Harvard's alumni database. So you could look Devin up in the database that way. The second thing is that you'll see on LinkedIn that I can see where Devin and I have the shared connections. So Devin and I happen to have 14 shared connections. One of them happens to be Erin Gilmore, who played soccer with me at Harvard. She was a year above me on the soccer team. And that's really cool that she is connected with Devin. So what I could do is I on text, you know, on a text message, I could send to Erin and be like, hey, do you know Devin? I saw that you guys were connected on LinkedIn. You know, if you know her, I'd love a warm intro. I'm looking to learn more about marketing at Nike. She might respond that she actually doesn't really know her because that happens all the time. But, you know, I have 14 other people that I could reach out to get that warm introduction. The other way that you can do it is that you might be in the same group as Erin. I think it said, so like if Erin is part of the same, if Devin is part of the same group, like a Harvard Varsity Club group, then that feature to message her directly is actually available. So that's another reason why you should join groups, because it enables you to message people even if you're not first degree connections. Okay, all those fun things. So I'm going to show you an example of that. So this is our Harvard soccer group. Again, I can go into the group, I can go into members, and then I can put in certain filters. And then even though I'm not connected with Caitlin, you can see here I'm a second degree connection with Caitlin. I can message her directly via the group. It's a one-on-one message, but because I found her through the group, I'm able to message her directly. Now, not everyone like responds to messages on LinkedIn. Like I check my LinkedIn. I don't, you know, it varies in terms of how much people are on it, but it's a good, easy way to reach out to people. And when you do that reach out to people, I really believe that there's a right and wrong way to do that cold, you know, to do that outreach. So I put together here just a sample outreach email. So let's say you are emailing them, you know, recognizing that people's time is limited and they're busy, but you're as a current you all have, the best card to play, I guess, if you will. You're a current Harvard student athlete, and people want to help, give back to their school and students in that way. So, call that out in the title. Be targeted on what you're trying to talk about. This is a template that I've used in the past and it's worked pretty well for me. So I just wanted to share that with you. Ask for 20 minutes of their time. Ask for like what works best for their schedule, and then you can give your contact information at the bottom there. And so some final tips. I don't think there's any need to pay for LinkedIn Premium. You can do everything that I just showed you on the LinkedIn free version. I'd encourage you to keep your profile updated. Keep it updated like one time per quarter. Look back at it, new things that you do that could be relevant. And if you get stuck, a great resource is other profiles of student athletes, and look at those for examples and inspiration. I have one last section, and which will take us just about 5 to 10 more minutes. Before I get into that, I want to see like any questions. Cool. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go into something that's related to getting a job, but all of this around like optimizing for your LinkedIn, so that other companies can find you, is all about getting a job. One thing that I didn't consider until, like the past year was like the ability to start your own company as well. And I realized that like, I just want to use the last 10 minutes of this to expose you to that as a possible path too, to just start thinking about that. And so I just want to share a little bit about my own journey of starting My Huddle. It started with a need that we intimately understood. My husband and I are founding it together. He's an orthopedic sports surgeon that treats injured athletes. And so he really has seen that perspective of the mental and emotional side of injury recovery and wanting to do more on that. Myself bringing the experience of someone who did overlook the importance of my mental training, mental health, both for like reaching your full potential, but also for dealing with like stress and feeling overwhelmed, and the commitments that you have to manage as a student athlete. So now we're on this mission to empower every student athlete with access to mental support to feel and perform at their best. I realize that there's a lot of barriers to access today for getting mental support, cost, time. It's inconvenient to have another appointment to go to, and it's usually expensive. And there's stigma. There's stigma around what mental training, mental support, mental health means in athletics. There's I had a lot of pride in being able to tough things out, and so that's our mission. We want to really meet athletes where they are today, which is right on their phones, and make that type of mental support really accessible. And so our vision is to design My Huddle as a mental health service dedicated to student athletes, and designing it for the modern student athlete today. We see, celebrity athletes have sports psychologists and teams that they work with on the mental side of their game. And I want to help make that accessible to all of you, to college athletes, to high school athletes, and beyond. So that's what we're working on. And our service today is allows you to match with a My Huddle coach who worked with you one-on-one via text and video chat. Some people have called it like the talk space for sports psychology. So if that accurate or analogy is helpful. And we're still iterating. I mean, we're early stage, we're testing different products. This is kind of the first one that we're launching, and we want feedback on, does this really solve the pain point of student athletes getting access to mental support, and how can we continue delivering on that vision? And it's been really cool to see As if you are someone considering the startup, it's really important to gather user feedback and hear what they're saying and testing and iterating. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to understand what athletes are liking about this program. How can we keep on improving it, and just seeing that athletes are, really getting value out of working with the My Huddle coach, who is, someone who is experienced on the mental health and sports psychology side of things, and uniquely understands the student athlete experience because they either were a student athlete or have worked extensively with student athletes. That's been really awesome to see. And so my ask for all of you, in exchange for giving you LinkedIn training, please follow us on Instagram. We're at my_huddle. And on our Instagram, we're trying to just build a community that supports one another, that helps break the stigma of this, and gives educational resources that are so needed right now for student athletes and everything that is going on and that you're navigating. So that's my plug. And thank you for allowing me to join you today and share a bit about why I'm so passionate around athlete mental health and athlete careers. I really would love in the future for some way that My Huddle helps athletes transition out of sport and go to that next step. I think it's less than 1% of college athletes will go pro, and instead you're going pro in something else. And I want to, I think that type of support and around the job training and career exploration would be really cool too. So that's where we're at. I know we have about 8 more minutes left, and I've been talking a lot at you. So what questions can I answer? Was this helpful? I'd love any feedback that you have.
I found it helpful. And I'm 5 years out.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I know. I think it's not just for current college students. It's for everyone. Everyone can optimize their LinkedIn to help serve their professional interests.
Christina, this is Lars. I'm the director of operations for the men's lacrosse team here at Harvard, and I just want to say thank you. This has been great. One of our biggest projects we've been working on for the last 6 months, but more specifically the last 4 months, is growing our team's alumni network, and we've gone from about 100 to 350 alums in that group, and this has been fantastic because we want to grow that so alums can connect, but also so our current team can connect with the alums for the exact purposes of everything that you've just talked about. So this has been fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's great to hear. Yeah, I have loved getting a chance to do that a bit with Harvard Soccer and grow our community and strengthen it. So I hear you on the interest in that and the need for it. So that's awesome. Happy to help support and share ideas on the lacrosse side too. I think we borrow a lot of ideas usually from lacrosse and other sports. So our friends group is trying to catch up to all of you. Cool.
I also
Hi, Christina.
wanted to
We're
kind
gonna-
of,
Oh,
go ahead, Will.
Jess.
Go ahead, good, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just, we're gonna surround you with lacrosse staff members. I'm one of the assistant coaches as well. I was wondering, did you use LinkedIn at all? Or how has it helped you now that you've started your own business? Did it help, did you use it in the early stages to help, when you were founding your own business, to find anybody who was, doing something similar and bounce ideas off of, or have you used it now? Obviously you're using it to spread the word, kind of like you did with us, but is there, was there anything you did early on through LinkedIn to help grow the business or even get it off the ground?
Yes and no, because I think I made the mistake of being shy in the beginning of starting my business to talk about it on LinkedIn. I think that I could have done more in the very early stages, before I even, formed the company, before I even knew exactly what we were offering, just to start talking about it, because I knew the need that I wanted to solve. And I think that if I started talking about my interest in that again, this like people that want to support you and have like connections into people that could help you come out of the woodwork. And like, that's what I've been finding now. Like, I'm not talking necessarily just about our business. I'm talking about, the need for better mental health support for student athletes, and like amazing connections have come from that. So that's probably been the most beneficial thing. I think, as we look to hire, or there is actually something tangible that we did. Part of our business is building a network of coaches who are, have the athlete background plus the sports psychology or mental health background. So LinkedIn has been really helpful for finding those people and connecting with them. And I created a LinkedIn group of people that I want to stay in connection with. So yeah, that was something actually tangibly very helpful. Yeah. As we look to hire, I think that would also be something that I would, definitely use LinkedIn as a way to identify talent once we look to expand our team further.
Awesome. Thank you. It sounds like a great service. I just followed you on Instagram. I'm in.
Awesome.
So, no, appreciate you doing this. Thank you. And, we'll probably take this back to our head coach and talk about, the LinkedIn and the My Huddle piece. Cause I agree. I think it's a vastly overlooked piece of college athletics. It's really important. So thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah. It's, life after athletics, you're going to have your career, and the lessons that you learn through sports, I think, have been so foundational for me. So that's those two areas that I really care a lot about. And something that we want to do is like spin up some group workshops using our sports psychology coaches to make this type of training accessible so people can experience it more in a team setting if they're not yet ready to work one-on-one. So yeah, that's something that we're starting to do with different schools and teams. Cool. Awesome. Well, Jessica, did you have a question too?
Oh, I didn't have a question. I was just going to reiterate something that you mentioned earlier about just the power of the Harvard Network and how important it is, especially right now. And again, like you mentioned, like Harvard alums will never say no when Harvard student athletes ask them to chat. Like it rarely ever happens. They want to pay it forward, like you mentioned. And in the emails that I send student athletes every other week-ish, I have links to our LinkedIn group. So and I put it in the chat, so please join that. We have our networking databases. One is the official Harvard one that isn't as up to date as I would love it to be, just because us Harvard alums don't update our information ever. But then we also created one at the beginning of the pandemic where alumni could opt in immediately because they want to be helpful during this time. So I really encourage student athletes to use those two resources, our LinkedIn group and that networking database, as you guys are trying to navigate whatever you're going to be doing next summer or next semester. These tools that Christina talked about are just going to be super helpful. So I just wanted to put a plug for the resources that are available to our student athletes. And if you need help navigating them, student athletes, reach out, schedule a meeting, always happy to chat.
Yeah, we didn't have someone like a Jessica when I was there. So this is amazing. The resources and support that you all provide, it's so cool. And I would, definitely encourage student athletes to take advantage of having Jessica as an amazing resource.
And Christina is an amazing one.
Awesome. Well, with that, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It sounds like this, or I see it's been recorded, so you can share that out, and find me on LinkedIn if you'd like. Find me on Instagram, and look forward to staying connected with you all.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Great.